Hello folks, welcome to the stream. I'm going to do something different today. I've been following F. Hinkle on Twitch, and she's been doing the advent of code, and totally check her out. She's got some really cool ideas, and it's really fun to watch. Well, I find it fun to watch other folks try to noodle through problems. So I'm going to give it a shot myself. We'll see how this works out. So I jumped in a bit to the website, and if you go to adventofcode.com, and it'll present you with a calendar. You can choose which day you'd like to do. This is the day here. You'll have to log into the site, so you can authorize with GitHub, Google, Twitter, Reddit. And I've been using my GitHub account, there we go, to authenticate into it. So I'm actually on part 2 of the first puzzle. And so the first one was really easy. In fact, the solution I ended up doing here was, oh, look at that. I just realized something that it did on me. Anyways, I had a main method, and it's funny, I haven't been exposed a whole lot to the Node community, and it's always interesting to pick up patterns here and there, and F. Hinkle uses this one in a lot of her coding that I see, and I think it's pretty cool. I get, at first I wasn't quite sure, where does it come from and stuff like that. I'm familiar with the idea that, kind of the async all the way down idea, where you, when you use async once, you kind of have to use async everywhere doing things. And so I hadn't seen such regular use of an async lambda to allow you to do these things with a little less boilerplate, and in a more sort of reasonable way. So this was my solution to the first one, where I'm just I stuffed the example numbers. So when you read through the problem, effectively, and I won't go through the whole problem because I'll go through future problems as I do more of these. Because we're already on the 13th of the month, I am way behind. I don't know if I'll catch up, but it's going to be fun to try anyways. So the example, so you're being given, they took the link to the example away. It's the same sample puzzle input for the first and the second part. And the puzzle input is just a list of numbers, positive and negative numbers. There's like 1,000 of them in the list. And you are expected to calculate sort of the final frequency in the first puzzle. So calculate basically summing the numbers together. I ended up using just a quick reduce function and taking each number and adding it to an accumulator starting at 0, and that will basically sum all the numbers up and give me the result. And I got it right, which was fun. And now the second part is interesting. I have a feeling as we go on, I've been watching F. Hinkle, and she's on day 13, I think. Anyways, she's going through some pretty crazy problems, and it's I'm gonna see how I can reason through them. So the second part is all about sort of remembering the frequencies that you have been on in the past, and then realizing when you reach the same frequency twice. So, they go through an example from a set of sample input data, the sample input data being +1, -2, +3, 1. And they walk through the example saying that we start from 0, we add 1 to it, we result with a frequency of 1. The second number comes in, we're at a frequency of 1 now. If we had a change of -2, and so now our new frequency is -1, which is different than 1. Now we've got a current frequency of -1, a change of +3, and now our current frequency is 2. And then the last number of our list is the current frequency is 2, and we had a change of +1, and our resulting frequency of 3. Now, they're illustrating here in this example that once we've reached the end of the list, we were expected to start the list again. And so the second time we run through the list, top to bottom, our frequency is still 3. We have a change of +1, which gives us 4. And then the second number in the list is -2, which brings us to 2. And we saw 2 before right here. And so at this point, we've seen 2 twice, and the first frequency our device reaches twice is 2. So I have to run through and kind of break out this algorithm through this same sort of 1,000 number example set. And I've taken it and I've just kind of copied it into a text file with all of the numbers in it. And I just read that text file. Oh, excuse me. Okay. Oh, sneezing aside. So now I need to. I'm gonna kind of leave that in play, and I'm gonna see what comes up here now. Let me just start a new function. And grab my array of numbers, and now I need to do something with these numbers. So I'm not sure how I want to do this. I'm thinking that I need to retain a history of numbers that or a history of frequencies that I've seen. So I feel like I almost want to, there's a couple of ways I can do it. I can say, I can say for the, hang on, let me see if I can noodle this through. So what if I start with an empty array of frequencies, and I say that let's try a for loop here. I'm not sure I want to use a functional approach yet, although maybe I should be trying that. I'm trying to get myself into a functional mindset. We'll see. I'm going to noodle it this way and then see what I come up with, and then kind of backtrack. Maybe we'll see how I feel when I'm done. So while we're listing the number of numbers, you can see how this might play out. Then I would just say, let's see, let the last frequency that we've seen equal to, let's use a ternary. So if I is 0, then we're going to use 0 to seed this, and otherwise we're going to use the frequencies I minus 1. Right, so if we're on the first one, the last frequency we saw was the calculation we made for the previous number. And if I say that the new frequency. So I'll say frequencies, let's push onto that, the new frequency, which is the last frequency plus the number and the position we're at. Now, this is going to give us two arrays that pretty much line up, right? The first element in the numbers array will be the input, and the second element in the numbers array is going to be the frequency plus the input. So the current frequency. Taking that number into effect. Yeah, because the first element here, I do the addition and I push that on as the first element inside frequencies. So this is going to line up current input, the frequency as a result of that input. So one question I have, and I'm not sure if it's clear, is the starting frequency is 0. And do we have to count 0 twice? Yes, I do. So +1, -1 first reaches 0 twice. So because it starts at 0, that's a starter frequency. And I'm going to miss that out. So that's going to be interesting. I could push 0 onto it, and now the two lists don't precisely line up, right? The 0th element of the numbers array is the first input, but the first element of the frequencies array corresponds to the first sum. I don't know. Let's see how this plays out. I need to calculate, or I need to determine for each of the things that I hit. Let's see. What has hit twice? Let's set that to false. I don't know. What if I did something like this? Try to quick exit the loop. Actually, let's negate this. Waiting for the hit. We are waiting for the hit. While we're waiting for the hit, we're going to continue to process the loop. We can mark that once we have the hit. So I could say that first hit frequency no, that's going to be weird. I'm also missing the logic of restarting the loop here. Not sure how I feel about that quite yet. Maybe I don't actually want to count through the number of the frequency. Well, I kind of have to, right? But perhaps I have an outer loop, which is while. Oh, hang on. How do while loops work in JavaScript? How do while? Is it a do while? Looks like a do while. Oh, I can use while that way too. Okay. Sure. So while we're waiting for a hit, then we're going to do this stuff inside. Oops. How do I use my keyboard shorts again? Oh, I found it. Good. There we go. So while we're waiting for the hit, we're going to walk through that numbers array and push the last seen frequency onto last frequencies. And really, I want to see, let's just really quickly extract this out as a variable. We'll call this current frequency. I don't know, I like to use expressive names because I'm not that smart. I get confused really easily. Trying to noodle through these things, I get lost in I's and J's and everything else. Unless I'm only using it for an extremely simple purpose, like this for loop here. I don't know, I've been writing for loops for so long that somehow my brain automatically knows what I means, but so I continue to do that. But these other variables, I like to have names. So first hit frequency is undefined, and we're going to push the current frequency on, and really, well, I guess I could check this beforehand. I could say that if the frequencies, and let's, for the current set of frequencies that I have accumulated so far, if I filter it by the current frequency, and I take a look at the length of that, and that is 2. So if I found 2 things, well, in order to do that, I kind of have to push it on first, don't I? That's okay, though. Then if I found 2 of those things, once I push it on the list, then the first, then 2 things happen. Waiting for a hit is true or false, and the first hit frequency is the current frequency. And you know, I'm looking at this and it's like, why do I need 2 variables here? And well, it's an interesting question, because for me it's a matter of expressiveness in the code. I don't need 2 variables there, right? I can do the same thing with a single one of them. You know, if I said while first hit frequency is null, and you know, first hit frequency is null, and then I would just set my first hit frequency, which wouldn't be null anymore, and I would get the same exit condition. But in this case, keeping them separate, making them the same, I think this is a little bit more clear, but that's just me too. So if I was coaching, I would say, so what does your team think? Is everybody with you in thinking that this stuff is the thing? And there we go. Hey, which I'm doing day 1, long typos and long variable names. Yeah, that's I can fall into that a lot. I lean on my IDE to try and catch those for me. Even the simple IDEs are pretty good now at highlighting something and then seeing the other usages of that variable name, and I catch those typos so often. If I forget to just do a quick double check to see what I've got there. So I don't know. I'm going to try to push a little faster to get through these just to catch up. Yeah, short names are bad and long names are bad too. Which kind of bad would you like? Right? We so often make those choices. I talk to folks all the time, and it's like, well, what you know, you hit the extremes, things are bad, but it's still a choice. What choice are you going to make? And I don't think folks realize how many little choices developers make all day long. And, I'm a big proponent of like making sure folks know what the goals are. Because in those little micro decisions people make, they're going to either push you in the direction you want to go, or they may be counter to the direction you want to go. And if folks are even subconsciously aware of what your goal is, they might make different decisions along those directions. So it's good to talk it out. So I'm not sure. I think I've got the early exit happening. I'm setting my first hit frequency. I'm not sure if it's going to be correct. I suppose when I'm done running this, I could just see what it is. Let's see if I have any syntax errors. No, I don't. Okay. Also, nothing got console. Oh, I suppose I should call the method, huh? And kaboom. There we go. 2 is not a function. How did I end up trying to call a function called 2? Taking the frequencies, which is an array. I'm filtering it on my current frequency. I'm looking for the length of the resulting array. And I'm comparing it to the number 2. If I stare at the code hard enough, it'll come out at me, right? Let's see. Any more hints? Oh, and I'll run it again, just in case it started passing when I wasn't looking. You ever do that? Oh, hang on, filter expects a function. Oh, of course it does. Oh my gosh. Or stare at the chat. Absolutely, for sure. Okay, yeah, of course. The number's going to come in, and I want the number to pass the filter if it's the same as the current frequency, and then the resulting thing should do a thing for me. So I'm getting 2. That seems weird. What? It seems weird to me because if I look at the web page, then their example was also 2. That seems weird. I don't know, was it 2? No. See? I'm not stuck, I'm just playful. Okay, so what went wrong with my algorithm? I'm looking for setting my last frequency to start with. Ooh. Sorry, my Twitter's going a little. Ah, cool. Oh, thanks for the retweet, or the tweet mention. Thank you. Let's see. I'm curious to get a little visibility in what's happening. And I'm real simple with a lot of this stuff. I'm curious to see if I just say, where are we at? What's our current number? If I could type, what is our current frequency? What is the result of that filter? Let's extract that. call this frequency matches. I don't know. Frequency, 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 frequency. Maybe I'm using the word frequencies too much here. What if this was just matches? What if this was just current? What if this was just last? Oh, I'm using, how to extract variables like that? I'm using WebStorm, the IntelliJ IDE, and it's not bad with three-factor functions. You can, let's see if I pull something up here, pull up the long menu. So we can do simple renames, moves. It's got some basic extracts. It will pull out a variable, pull out a field if you're working in a class. Extract methods. It'll do pull up, push down. I think it'll do push down. I don't use push down very often. You can inline things if you find your temporary variable you don't really want. So I don't know. I got used to it because when I play with code, I reshape it a lot. I'll start with something and I don't like it, and I reshape it, and I look at it. I see how I feel about it. I don't like it, and I'll reshape it until I get down to something. So actually, with this, if you see me jump past when I'm done, that's very unusual for me. I would normally sit with this code for a little bit longer and see if I could, not that I'm trying to gold plate it or anything, but I like the next person that comes along to be able to understand it, and that next person might just be future me. I mentioned I don't feel that smart, so I bet future me would appreciate the extra effort in expressiveness. Okay, I still have a bug, so let's drop the result of that filtered matches in here. I don't want to dump out 1,000 numbers, but I also am really curious to see what this looks like. Oh, I didn't get 1,000 numbers at all. So I got a 2. Hang on, 2 is the first number, right? Let's just do a couple of off by 1 checks. Yeah, 2 plus 2 is the first number. And so that set my frequency to 2. Wait a minute. Oh, previously seen frequencies. Where'd my 0 go? I seeded frequencies with 0. I'm pushing onto it. Oh, of course. I'm showing the filtered list. So show me all the things with 2 in it, and at that point I've inserted one thing with 2 in it, and therefore I get an array of one thing with 2. Got it. Then I have an 11 and 11, and I'm looking for 11s, and I get... That's kind of a silly thing to push out on the on the debug here. So maybe what if instead I said, just show me the frequencies that I have. So this is it's funny. This is kind of what I was expecting, but it's not what I coded at all. So I got a 0 and a 2. Of course, I haven't seen anything twice yet. And I got a 0, 2, and 11. Of course, I haven't seen anything twice yet. I've got a current numbers of 4. So it sets the frequency to 6. Hang on, how can it have gone down if I don't have a negative number yet? Oh, of course. Thanks for that. See, Yeah. I have, when I was running everything on one computer, I would have OBS monitor what my current foreground window was. And if it matched the console, I'd have it switch me over there. And if it matched the IDE, I'd have it switch me back. But now that I'm doing this actually across two computers, I have to switch it manually, and I hate that. And I haven't delved into how I can trigger OBS from a remote location to actually switch that. So one day I'll get annoyed enough with it that I do it. Unfortunately, it doesn't annoy me so much as it annoys you folks. Okay, let's see. Yeah, it will be. It totally will be. Okay. I got the current number, the current frequency. And the total list of frequencies that I have seen. In order. I'm not using this temporary variable here anymore. I'm going to inline it. So it's always going to include the current. This is where I have a difficult time in, in pair programming. I'm always like, think out loud. And when I'm stuck on an algorithm like this, my thoughts are always like stop, start, stop, start. So thinking out loud will do people no good. And it'll probably do me even less. Numbers I, current and frequencies. So how on earth did you... Oh no, you have the current list of C and frequencies. But see, I had... So the current number is here. If I have a +2 and then a +11, where's my 13? What does the data look like? It's a +2, a +11, and a +4. So calculating this manually, I would expect my frequency by the time I get here to be, what, 17? And then I subtract 16 to go down to 1. I think my thing is broken. Let me just drop one more number in there because I'm curious. So if I said, let me put the word frequency back in here. And I want to say numbers I. I'm extracting that. I'm running that a lot. Current input. Calculating the current frequency, pushing that on, doing an evaluation. And so current input last frequency, current frequency, frequencies. So current input is 2, last frequency was 0, new frequency is 2, so I have a 0 and a 2. Makes perfect sense. Current input is an 11. Last frequency was not a 2. This isn't -1 anymore because I changed the offset, the relationship offset between those two sets of numbers by seeding this with a starting number. I knew I was going to miss the reasoning on that. And that was a lot of stuff. That escalated quickly. In which case, I don't need to actually do this ternary at all. Last frequency is a simple lookup now that I've seeded the 0th element. It is simply frequencies of I. Oops. So I can eliminate all this complication. Of course, that's not going to make any difference there. And let me take out that list of frequencies. So I'm still calculating the final frequency the same, which makes me happy. I'm still getting a 2 as the value, which I know is wrong because the advent site told me so. Current input is the numbers of I. Current frequency is the last frequency plus the current input. I'll just do a really quick review here on the algorithm. I thought I had it. So find the first frequency it reaches twice. So I might shift these around to say last frequency, adding the current input gives us current frequency. Well, yeah, okay, can my computer do basic math? Last frequency, current input, new frequency. Last frequency, current input, new frequency. It's doing the thing. So when the frequencies that I've seen filtered by the current frequency that I have just calculated is found twice. Mark that I'm done. Log the things out. I'm still getting that too. And now I bet it's still not a 2. I could try on the test inputs. Of course I could. let's try it on the test inputs. The one thing that that caused me to take this out was that it grew to 1,000 numbers. That wasn't that console output was not useful. But if I take my input numbers here, so instead of pulling that out of the file, let's seed it with the static numbers that they give us as the example, which is +1, -2, +3, +1. So single negative number, 3 positive numbers. And what do I get here? Not the answer that I was expecting. So my last scene frequency is 0. I add +1 to it, I get a final frequency of 1. My last scene frequency is 1. I add -2, I get a -1. A last scene -1, a +3 gives me a 2. Last scene of 2, a change of +1 gives me a 3. And that's what I expect to see. And since I've gone through once and I start the list again, I see what I did wrong here. When it looped in the list, oh, I don't think that's any of the test inputs. I've been using these for test inputs across this algorithm. Okay. Yeah, and dumping them out in a list like this had me confused too until I sorted out in my brain which was which. But I'm clearly not carrying the last frequency seen across the loop, because yeah, the loop resets at 0 each time I go through it. If I declared this out here, took this out, updated the last frequency, I'm going to push this down here though. What's it look like now? Now I got my 2. So the test data evaluated correctly. What happens if I run through the real data set? I can't imagine running forever was the intended intended result. Let me get rid of this. It's a whole lot of console output. Console output always slows things down. We have dog wars in the hallway. Oh, that's interesting. I eventually got a result. It wasn't something. Oh, I have two dogs at home. I have a husky and a mix. He was a rescue, so that's Boomer and Tundar, or sorry, Siku. We lost Tundar a few years ago. He was, yeah. Anyways, it's good. I'm going to stay on target here. Is this the right answer? Do I actually have the right answer? I miss my dogs. I travel a lot, and so I'm in Indianapolis these days at a client site, and so I live in like the middle of nowhere in central Ontario, and it's awesome because it's a great escape, but I don't get to spend a lot of time at home when I'm doing my consulting thing in the US. Okay, so let's see, 77666. Is that it? No way! We got it. Oh, that's great. Now, how much can I resist leaving the code as it is? This is really hard for me. Look at how messy it got. Look at how messy it got. I got all these things here. That's, I don't know. See, it's funny. There's this breakpoint, right, where you want a short enough piece of code so that somebody could hold it all in their head as they reason through it, but you want it to be expressive enough so that we're using understandable structures and variable names, and so there's like a tension there, right? You go too big, nobody gets it anyways. So, but I feel like I could find a better balance here. I think I'm gonna call this good. I'm happy to have gone through this, and I got caught by that. I left that console log in, and it just kept on running, and yeah, I had assumed for a minute I had it bad. I didn't have the answer, but I have the answer, so that's pretty cool. All right, and just another shout out. I'm kind of enjoying the structure that I saw you use for the first time, and I haven't delved into that too much. I have I use promises a lot, but I always use the then functions to string things together, and I always end up with these. It is. And lately, I'm using Node to crawl across the VSTS, or no, I suppose now it's Azure DevOps. Just trying to build statistics for the client I've been working with, so they can get a handle on, what's going on, and I'm measuring things like, in all the repositories, how many branches do they have open, and how long have those branches been open, and all kinds of things like that, hoping that it's good. And so I spawn all these background fetches, and then I got to pull them all together, and I get lost in the complexity of it all because it's like a classic REST API, and so I have to make all the relationships myself between different calls. And yeah, the the error catching being easier to see, I totally see that. And being able to hold an imperative thread of work in a clearer sort of bulleted set of steps. I'm going to play more with this. Okay, awesome. I'm going to call it a night. It's getting late for me. If you use node 8, rewrite it with await. Yeah, I see. This is just my own exploration. So I actually don't. I don't do any code for the client. It's actually a constraint of my visa, and so I use it to analyze and glean insight, and then make management recommendations. So I get to use whatever I want to use, and I chose I would do all of this with Node because I've been doing it all in kind of more current JavaScript so that I could transpile it. Maybe one day actually put something into a browser page and think of a dashboard, because I have a coaching product in my own business that I've been building out, and I always think of different visualizations that I might like to pull up when I'm coaching a developer, looking at kind of how they work in their day-to-day development life, and looking for things to talk to them about and ask them questions about. I love the idea of the analytics, and then for so many people, visualizing what's going on can really kind of turn on the light bulbs. So anyways, now I feel like I'm soapboxing. So thanks for joining me. It's been awesome. I'm going to have to try and do 2 of these every day, and it's going to get easier, I think, starting on the weekend. But I'm also probably going to get 2 in tomorrow. So hopefully I'll see folks tomorrow night. The sad part for me is if I'm streaming, I'm not watching other people. So I'll be, I don't really stream on a schedule. I just sort of stream when I'm able. So when I'm traveling, then it's easier for me to stream at night. When I'm home, spending time with the family and stuff like that tends to happen more. So we'll see how I'll be able to keep it up. And I will see you all tomorrow night. That's when I'll be back next. Thanks.